Okay, hi again, everybody. I have 1 o'clock, so in the interest of time and be respectful of your time, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Um, Thank you again for everybody who has put their name in the chat box and your school and your email. We will be sending out an email following this workshop with some resources and your certificate for attending. So my name is Rochelle Davies, and I am a school nutrition program specialist with the Office of Public Instruction. I am assigned to Region 6, so I see a few of you from my region already. Welcome. I take over the southeastern corner of the state. So in just a second, I will show our team and talk a little bit more about the regions. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So this is our wonderful school nutrition programs team. I always like showing the picture of who we are so that you can put a name to a face. I know you might have seen some of us at trainings before or had us come on site for things like an administrative review, but it always helps to put a name to a face when you're talking to somebody. So you can see starting at the top left, we have our director, Chris Emerson, one of our regional specialists, Jackie Roller here. She's based in Belgrade. Pam Frew is our wonderful USDA Foods program manager, and she is in Helena. And this front and center is Clay Hickman. I know many of you have talked to him on the phone. He really helps all of our program run smoothly, and we appreciate him so much. Next to him, we have our wonderful assistant director, Camille Biazzo, and she is also based in Helena. And then continuing on, we have Erin Turner. Erin Turner is a regional specialist based out of Bozeman. And finally, on the top row, we have Caroline Olson, who is a traveling regional specialist based out of Great Falls, and also our fresh fruit and vegetable program manager. Continuing down, we have Bitsy, who is our IT program manager and has been instrumental in implementing things like the MAPS system a few years ago and designing and implementing the new DCA system. And continuing on, we have Deb Jones, who is also a traveling regional specialist based out of Helena and who is our menu guru, self-declared foodie. This is me right in the middle. Like I said, I'm Rochelle Davies and I'm based out of Billings. Here we have Kim Lloyd, our wonderful summer program manager, who I'm sure many of you have talked to in the last 6 months. And then last but not least, we have Allie here. Allie is our data analyst and who processes claims every month. Just a wealth of knowledge here. And not pictured, we have our last program regional specialist, Kelly Johnson, who joined us last year right after we took the picture. So Kelly, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi. So my name is Kelly Johnson. I just came on with OPI, I think back in October. And this is my first year. It's been really fun and I've learned a lot. There are a lot of rules and regulations with this program, but it's really fun. It's been really fun to talk to all of you guys. And I am the specialist for Region 1 and I'm based out of Missoula.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly. Oh, here we go. Okay, so today we are scheduled to be talking from 1 to 4:30. It's going to be quite a lengthy training. We will take a break at about the middle point when there's a good stopping point so we can get up, stretch our legs, get some water or coffee, whatever. But today we are going to cover a lot of topics. We're going to start out with some back to school planning, going over some of the summer food service program current waivers and updates for what is happening recently. Kelly is also going to talk about the waivers that are available for the National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program if you're still continuing to use the school year programs. And then we're going to talk a little bit about meal counting and claiming for alternate meal services, for example, if you opt into some of those waivers. Then I will jump right into determining official basics. So determining official for us is essentially if you are making the free and reduced determinations for your district. Then we'll jump into some discussion about the administrative review and some of the required documentation. And just as a side note, we did just do a webinar yesterday that is recorded and will be posted as soon as we can within the next couple of days so that you can access that. That really goes into depth on the administrative review. And we also have a previous recording just focused on the menu review portion of that. Then we're going to continue on to procurement and discuss the procurement requirements and documentation. And we are going to finish with the school wellness. So school wellness policies, the triennial assessment of implementation, and then we're happy to take questions on anything if you have questions about your procurement policy or your wellness policy. And truly at any point in this entire afternoon that we are spending together, if you have questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and chime in. It really helps me feel like there's active engagement in this presentation and I'm not just talking at you for a couple of hours. So I know it feels a little bit different when we're on Zoom and not face-to-face like we are normally in fall trainings, but I highly encourage you, if you're willing, speak up. We want to hear your stories. We want to hear you ask questions. And if you don't want to unmute yourself, you can absolutely type questions in the chat box. There's quite a few specialists in the chat box today, and they can absolutely help you with your questions or place links for any resources or documents that we're discussing in that chat box. So feel free to engage however you're comfortable. Okay, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly. Kelly, you're muted.
I just realized that. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about back to school planning. So some meal service guidelines. We'll talk about waivers after Kim talks about summer, and then just a little bit about food safety. We kind of covered a little more about that in the food service training last week. Okay. Okay, so there are probably a few different scenarios that you may have been in this year. So probably in March, when schools are mandated to shut down, you had to do completely remote meals. And that is totally okay. So if this happens again, and hopefully it doesn't, but if you do have a situation where your school does need to shut down for a couple of days to clean, you can absolutely do all remote grab and go meals. And we'll talk about some of the waivers that you'll need in order to do that a little bit later. Scenario 2 is that you may be doing in-person meals. So this could look like delivering the meals and the kids are eating them in the classroom, or the kids maybe are coming to the classroom but taking them, or coming to the cafeteria but taking them back to the classroom. Or things might not have changed that much and you might still be doing normal standard meal service, where you're serving and eating in the cafeteria, but maybe there's like a few more safety precautions thrown in there as well. And I think what probably most schools are doing is doing some sort of blended model. So you're serving some students remotely, those that are doing distance learning, and then you're serving others at school. So we'll talk about summer, and then we'll talk about some of the waivers that you will need if you plan on doing any of these meal services. So I did want to switch screens really quick and show you our website. If you go to opi.montana.gov/school nutrition, it'll take you straight to our school nutrition page. And up here in this left corner is a back to school resources tile. And this is where we've really put all of the information that we've been working on since back in March. Most of it is all under this tile. We've tried to just keep it all together in one place. So if you haven't already signed up for summer and that's something that you're interested in after you hear from Kim, then you can actually find this school year SFSP form here. When you click on it, it'll just take you to this. It's actually a really simple form. You just need to put your email address, your school, and this is how you'll opt into the waivers that we'll talk about later. So just really easy, like clicking like which ones that you want to opt into, and then submitting it. And then what's going to happen is once you submit that SFSP form, your school nutrition specialist or your regional specialist is going to reach out to you. All right, so going back to our page. All right, so we'll scroll down. So here's some helpful links and resources. And we'll click on this new Fall 2020 meal program options. And this is really has been designed as like a roadmap to help you figure out what program that you're wanting to run, what waivers might be required, and then just some program reminders. So say, for example, you did want to switch over to summer, so you're on SFSP. Here are some of the waivers that you may want to opt into. You can click on these and read about them. Also, we're going to go over them. So if you don't want to read them, you can just listen to us. And then it'll just have some reminders updating your current MAPS application. I know this was a question we got last time. We found out that you can run FFVP alongside the Summer Food Service Program. So if that was sort of a barrier before, you had a lot of FFVP funds that you wanted to spend, you can actually still use those while doing the Summer Food Service Program. However, you cannot run after school snack program. And then whichever program you do, NSLP or SFSP, just making sure that you are following that meal pattern. That's just a page to go to if you have any questions or need to figure out, like any reminders that you need. We also have some other resources. So Webinar Wednesday, this is a Google Drive where we're keeping some of those videos. Also, you can go into MAPS download forms and find our Webinar Wednesdays there. So if you're looking for a really specific topic that you're wanting to learn about, there may have already been a video created on that. So you can check that out in MAPS. And then here is a Google Drive that has the S&P chat. So this was happening back like in the actual summer. Team Nutrition was getting together every Thursday and anyone could join. And it was basically like just a question and answer. We would go over some resources. Schools were able to log in and ask questions. And so they have compiled all of the resources in this Google Drive. So for example, if you click on July 23rd, it'll take you to some order form samples. I don't know if you are serving meals in the classroom and teachers are actually marking off kids that are eating, there's some example order forms in here that are really helpful. Here's a blank one where you can just put the name, lunch number, the meal taken. So yeah, you can kind of like go in here, look around, see if there's anything helpful. I know for the food service directors, there's a lot of great menu samples. Here's like a 2-week cycle menu. It even has like what you need to think about, like if you're doing a bag delivery, even like, okay, you need to serve this with a fork and you might need to include a ketchup packet in the bag. So these are really helpful for food service directors when trying to think of menus. Okay, so we'll back out of this. We also, in the same area, have food safety resources. So we have a HACCP plan that's really mostly aligned with the viral pandemic response. So a great thing to print out and add to your HACCP binder. And then we have a back to school meal service flow chart in different scenarios. So say, for example, school is running normally right now, but something happens and you do need to shut down and you're doing only remote meal service. You could click on this checklist and it's really just meant to be like a foundation, like it says, like a foundation for exploring topics and decisions. So it's just things like, okay, we have to go to completely remote meals. What all do I need to think about or consider or plan for? So these are just really helpful in getting like the wheels spinning and trying to figure out what all you need to consider when switching meal service. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to go over here. Again, you can go to opimontana.gov and go to our page, and it is the back to school tile right here. All right, so I'll go back to the PowerPoint. And Kim, if you want to take over and start talking about summer, or I can progress slides for you, whichever works for you.
Yeah, if you don't mind moving the slides, that would be great. I'll just talk through this. Thank you. So hi, everyone. Again, my name is Kim Lloyd, and I am the Summer Food Service Program Manager. I am based in Helena, and if anyone has a better name than the Summer Food Service Program for this program that we're operating now, please let me know. But we are still calling it the Summer Food Service Program, and it has now been extended into as late as December 31st, 2020. And we just found that out at the end of August. So as you are moving into your fall food service, you do have the option to continue operating the National School Lunch Program, or you may switch over to the Summer Food Service Program. And this option is available for districts that have operated the program in the past. It is available for those who just did it in the spring, or if you have never operated the Summer Food Service Program and you feel like there is a need to provide free meals to the children in your community, you could be eligible for the program too. So this is definitely something to consider if you are interested. You do need to have an approved MAPS agreement with us in the Summer Food Service Program to claim the meals under the Summer Food Service Program. So there is a step to do that. I think I'll talk through the procedure here on the next slide. You can switch, please. Thank you. So the first step, sorry, I'm trying to move the videos here in the way for me. I'm going to close them. Okay. The first step for districts interested in operating the Summer Food Service Program is to complete that school year SFSP form. That's that really simple survey that Kelly showed you a couple of minutes ago that can be found on our website. And that is just to indicate which waivers you are interested in extending, but also to express interest in operating the program moving into the fall now. And then once you have submitted that form, you will receive a call or an email from your regional specialist to talk through the next steps. It may be as simple as just extending your current application. You may need to talk a little bit more about some extra things to do to your application. I will let you know right now that our fiscal year ends September 30th. So right now you are only extending your applications through the end of September. And then we will open up new applications October 1st so that you can then renew your application from September through October through December. So right now you're only applying for the month of September. And we do have the option now, we just got notice, I think this past Friday, that you can retroactively claim your Summer Food Service Program meals. So if you are just applying to the program now, but you would like to claim all of your meals free for the month of September, you are able to do that even if your application wasn't approved until now or last week or the coming weeks. If you would like to switch all of your children over to receive free meals, you can do that as early as September 1st. I do have to say though that if you have been charging any children for meals and you do decide to start the claiming on September 1st, that you will need to reimburse those who have paid for their meals so that you're not getting double money through the Summer Food Service Program and those paying for their meals. And then even if you are switching over to the Summer Food Service Program for the fall, please still continue to collect free and reduced price school meal applications and direct certifications. We are planning to switch back over to the NSLP starting in January, so we will need all that information. And we did mention the waivers that are available for the Summer Food Service Program. They're the same ones that were available this spring and summer if you operated the program. If you are new to the Summer Food Service Program, these are all very similar to what is available in the National School Lunch Program, and Kelly is going to go into more detail about these. The one that is specific to the Summer Food Service Program is the area eligibility waiver. And if you have a school or a site that maybe is normally not eligible for the Summer Food Service Program, we have had those requirements waived because we understand that many family situations have changed during COVID. So there is a nationwide waiver to allow sites to operate in an area that's not normally eligible. If you're not familiar with the area eligibility part of the Summer Food Service Program, the sites for the Summer Food Service Program normally have to be located in an area where at least half of the children are eligible for free reduced price meals. Since the Summer Food Service Program provides free meals, we need to make sure that we are reaching those families that are most in need for the program. So that's why there's normally that requirement, but again, we understand a lot has changed since March, so that is an option if you normally wouldn't qualify for the program. And I'll let Kelly get into the rest of those after this. So next slide, please. Thank you. And then I do just want to cover some just basics of the summer food service program. There is a training in download forms in the summer food service program and maps. So if you're looking for more information, please watch that video. It is a requirement to have training for the summer food service program. I am also available for questions if you have any. But the purpose of the summer food service program is to provide free meals to kids age 18 and under. And when I say age 18 and under, you have the option to operate your summer food service program as an open or a closed enrolled site. And an open site means that you have your meal program available to all kids age 18 and under, whether they are enrolled in your school or not. So if you are wanting to serve maybe children, like siblings of some of your students that maybe aren't in school, or if you want to serve homeschool, or maybe neighboring districts that don't have as strong of a food service, or as, I guess, as well staffed of a food service and they need a little bit of help, or kids that live out of the school district boundaries, they are welcome to come to an open site to receive a free meal. If you would only like to serve the children that are enrolled in your school, whether they are in person or distance learning, then you would want to operate a closed enrolled site. And that's just a choice on your application when you're filling that out. It's question number 25. So please just take that into consideration when you're planning out your meals, that you do have the option to serve those outside of your school as well. Next slide, please. Thank you. Sorry, I've been talking on the phone too much today. Okay, so as I mentioned, the sites are usually, you usually have to have an area where at least half the students are eligible for free reduced price meals. I just have this in here again is because we have the area eligibility waiver through December 31st. The reason that we are asking you to reapply for this waiver is we just want to make sure that we are offering this program where it is most needed. The USDA has said that this is available pending funding through December 31st. So if we have too many people that maybe aren't in need of the program that are signing on to use it, we may bankrupt the USDA. So we need to make sure that we are using this program where it is most needed. And we understand that covers the whole state. So we have many new sponsors coming on, which is great. If you need the program because some of your families may have lost employment, or if you maybe are strapped for staff at the school and need a program that's a little easier to run administratively, this could be a good option too. So just something to consider if you are still trying to decide between switching over to the summer food service program. All right, next slide, please. All right, so whether you're doing an open or an enrolled site, you may operate 2 meals a day for the summer food service program. The only combination you cannot do is lunch and supper in the same day. So you are able to do breakfast and lunch, and since we have the mealtime waivers, that's what most schools are doing is breakfast and lunch, and that with the mealtime service waiver, you are able to offer maybe both of these meals at the same time. If you're doing a grab and go style pickup, you could give a child both breakfast and lunch at the same time or for multiple days. So a couple of different options. You're welcome to do a snack too if you want to offer a smaller portion to go along with the lunch. So next slide, please. All right. So daily meal counts is a very important program requirement, and I believe somewhat different from what you have to do for the NSLP. For the summer food service program, all meals are offered for free to all students. So there is no need to count whether they are free, reduced, or paid. All you need to do is really tally each meal that is given out. It is required to count each meal at the point of service. And so we have a meal count sheet available for you if you would like to use this form. If you have a different way of counting, that is fine. We have some schools that are entering all the meals into their electronic systems. I think one's called Infinite Campus. So if you are doing that, just please make sure that you are recording all kids as free and no one is paid if you are operating the summer food service program. This form can be found in download forms. It's also on the summer food service program website. And there's numbers 1 through 100. You can mark them off as you count students. You are able to use this form for more than 100 kids. Just have some kind of monitoring system to maybe do a slash to the right for 1 through 100, and then a slash to the left for 101 to 200, and circle them for the 300s and so on. So there's also a spot on this form to count second meals. So seconds can be claimed up to 2% of your total meals for the summer food service program. So it's not very many, but if you are serving seconds, if you serve 100 meals in a day, 2 extra meals can be counted as seconds for the full meal reimbursement. After that, those meals either have to be charged for or subsidized through another fund that you might have at your school. And then on this form, you can also count meals to program adults, and I will talk a little bit more about that, but that may be any staff or adults who do not do anything with the meal service program. And then also meals to program adults. Sorry, meals to program adults are meals to any adults that do something with the food service, and then meals to non-program adults are meals that need to be paid for either by the staff or the parent visiting or whatnot, or by the school or another account. And I will talk a little bit more about adult meals in the next couple of slides. But you can switch to the next one. So at the end of the month, after you have all of your daily meal count sheets, you will consolidate them. We have this consolidated meal count form available in download forms. This is available as an Excel spreadsheet. So if you just enter all of your numbers in the Excel spreadsheet, then it will give you the total on the bottom. Or if you have another way of tracking, that is fine too. Just please make sure that you count those daily meal counts. If you are in review and we check your meal service counts and they do not match up to what you claimed, then that is potential for us to take fiscal action, and that is not something that we enjoy doing. So please make sure that you're keeping accurate daily meal counts at your sites and if they do match what you're claiming for meals. All right, next slide. Thank you. And this is a very tiny screenshot of what it looks like when you are going to submit claims. Claims for the summer food service program are due the 10th of the following month. So for the month of September, you would go log back into MAPS, make sure you're in the summer food service program, click on claims, and before October 10th, you will want to enter your claims for the month. You will enter the total number of days that food was served, and then also the total number of meals for each type. In this case, they entered for total count for breakfast and total count for lunch. And I am happy to assist with this. A lot of errors that come up for submitting claims for the summer food service program are that you have too many days or too many meals. And that in that case, it means that the site application does not match what you're putting in for claims. So the site application talks to our claims system, and if they don't match, then we need to go back in and make edits to the site application. And that is something that I'm happy to help with. It is very common, so you're not alone if you're getting errors as you submit claims. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. So the reimbursement rates. So the first column there shows the amount that you will get per meal for the summer food service program. And so just over $237 for a breakfast and $415 for a lunch. That first column means all sites that are either in a rural county or self-prep. So the majority of our sites are receiving this first column for reimbursement. If you are in an urban county, which is Yellowstone, Missoula, Cascade, and then I think it's Carbon and Stillwater counties, right, by Billings. If you are in those, we're right by Yellowstone, if you are in those counties and you are contracted with a food service management company, such as Sodexo, then you will receive just a slightly lower reimbursement rate per meal. But if you're in one of those urban counties and preparing your own meals, then you still get that higher reimbursement in that first column. So a little confusing, but we try to simplify that by having this chart for you. Thank you. All right, we're getting a lot of questions on adult meals at the office. So program adults, again, those who do serve meals or help with the meal service in any way, whether they are staff or volunteers, they can receive a free meal through the summer food service program. However, you do not include those in your claims at the end of the month. You can just offer those meals for free, and then it's considered part of your operating costs for the month. For non-program adults, any maybe teachers or staff who are not involved with the meal service at the school, they do need to be charged for their meals or subsidized somehow by another account through the school. And so there is a adult meal service memo available in download forms, and it says that the meal cost for non-program adults should be the reimbursement cost plus the cost of USDA foods, making lunch about $4.50 for a staff for non-program adults eating at the school. You are welcome if you have the funds at your school to help subsidize that cost. I do understand it's maybe a little bit more than the National School Lunch Program, but on the flip side, all the kids at the school get to eat for free. So there is that. And again, you can count this on your meal count sheet. You just want to make sure that you are showing any funds for food not going to kids being reimbursed to your food service account. And I'm happy to answer any questions on that, as I probably didn't say it as clearly as I was thinking through it in my head. So here is my contact information. Feel free to email me. Cell phone is probably the quickest way if you have an immediate question. I'm working from home, so I'm happy to take calls on my cell phone, or there are additional resources at that opi.mt.gov/summerfood. And I will stay on the call and just watch the chat box if anyone has questions, or feel free to reach out if you need to talk through something as well. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Kim. All right, so before I start talking about the NSLP waivers, we just wanted to do a poll to see how many of you guys are planning on or are currently operating under NSLP or SFSP. So again, we'll have about a minute for you guys. Oh gosh, sorry. Okay, here we go. We'll do about a minute for you guys to answer. All right, we'll do maybe about like 10 or 15 more seconds. If there's anyone that hasn't answered yet. Okay. Yes, definitely a lot of more people doing SFSP, which is great. Whatever works for you and your school, go with that. And if you haven't decided yet and you still have some questions or you're trying to figure out what's going to work best for you, feel free to call your regional specialist and they can help work out your scenario. Cool, thank you guys. All right, so talking about NSLP waivers, and again, these waivers also apply to SFSP. It just depends on like where you're applying for them, and I'll show that at the end where you can apply for both. Okay, so we've got, let me just go ahead and we'll go through these real quickly. So we have the non-congregate feeding waiver. This you're probably going to need if you're planning on feeding any kids that are off-site or doing remote learning, because this is going to allow for off-site consumption of meals. And so if you are doing grab and go, or if you're doing a curbside pickup, or if you have resources and you're doing mobile or bus routes, this is where you would need that waiver. And then also with written permission, you can do home deliveries. Then we have the meal service time flexibility waiver. So this is going to allow for serving multiple meals at once. So instead of having those distance learning kids come on site for breakfast and then go back home and come back for lunch, this will actually allow you to serve breakfast and lunch at the same time. It also allows for serving meals for multiple days at the same time. So say, for example, your food service director wants to send out on Monday, meals for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. This is allowed under this waiver. Next up is the parent and guardian meal pickup, which is exactly how it sounds. This allows parents or guardians to come pick up the meals without a child being present. You just want to make sure that you have some sort of accurate method of counting, only one meal per child per day. So keeping track of, I think this is probably a little bit easier with NSLP, because if you have a parent coming up, you could maybe print out a roster and just mark kids' names off that way. Whereas with SFSP, you're not, looking for kids' names. It could be a little bit harder, but just ensuring you have some way of counting only one meal per child per day. And then we have the meal pattern flexibility. And this allows sponsors to claim meals for reimbursements that do not meet all of the meal pattern requirements or include all the components. So if this does happen, you'll just want to contact your regional specialist. Maybe there is a disruption in the supply chain and food service director can just not get a certain item that they need to meet the meal pattern requirements. Or if there's a scenario where the food service director has done a really good job of, has like a backup plan in case one of their staff has to quarantine, maybe they have all the components, but like they just don't have a fresh vegetable, then this would be an example of where you'd be able to call your specialist, tell them the situation, and then they could help you fill out this meal pattern flexibility waiver. So it's really, this one is more of a like case by case basis. And then the last one is the offer versus serve flexibility. So for the normal school year, you can choose whether to serve or do offer versus serve for the younger kids. But for high school kids, it's a requirement to do offer versus serve. So this waives that. And this just allows you to be able to individually like package up meals, whether that be in like clamshells or bags, and to serve those students versus giving them a choice of which components they want. So this is really helpful if you're delivering to the classroom, you have everything in a paper bag, and you just want to be able to hand off those without doing an offer versus serve option. So you want to opt into this flexibility. And then again, just reiterating, must have accurate counting and claiming procedures in place. Also, you want to maintain confidentiality. So if you do print out some sort of roster to mark kids off when parents come in, just making sure that maybe that benefit status isn't on that list where other people would be able to see that. And then when you fill out, if you are doing NSLP and want to opt into one of these waivers, it's just going to ask you basically like how you'll maintain integrity. So you'll just have to describe that in your waiver request. And then I do want to show you real quick where just to find both of those. So we talked about where to find the SFSP one. So that one's really easy. It's actually already like in that form that you have to fill out to get signed up. And then the NSLP one, let's see, I think we moved it. It's called the Back to School Waiver Survey. So when you click on that, it takes you, this will be the one for NSLP. So if you are doing NSLP, you will want to fill out this one. If you're doing SFSP, you can just fill out that one that was in that school year form. So there are where you can find both of those. And then just some housekeeping, making sure that you're properly training the staff. If you're doing in-class service, that making sure you're training teachers how to count, and just reiterating how important it is that how important accurate counts are for reimbursement. And then if you have a parent pickup or grab and go, just a good system for keeping track of the student benefit issuance, because with NSLP, you do still have to claim those students based on free, reduced, or paid. Okay, and I think that's it, and this will be Rochelle next.
Awesome, thank you, Kelly. All right, how is everybody feeling? Any questions on anything that has come up so far? I'm gonna wait a minute because I know it takes a little bit to get unmuted, but if you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. Okay, I don't hear any yet, so I'm gonna launch a poll. I know we have lots of polls, and now you should see, I'm gonna ask if you like dogs or cats more, or if you don't like either. And I apologize. I know there should be an answer for liking dogs and cats, right? I like dogs and cats, but just pick which one you like more. So it looks like most everybody has voted so far. I'm just going to give it 5 more seconds. And we have a clear winner, like not even a question. 2 people like cats more, 17 people voted and said they like dogs more. Awesome, thanks guys. Okay, this is going to be a little bit long of a topic. I'm going to try to cover as much as I can without getting too wordy. Definitely a downfall of mine. Feel free to interject with questions because there will be a lot covered. And then as soon as I'm done with this next section, we are going to take a break. So with that, I'm going to get started. Oops. Yeah. Okay. So like I said at the beginning, when we're talking about the determining official, we are talking about the person who is making that determination for free or reduced benefits. So that could be you in the office. You are either collecting or receive the collected free and reduced applications. You're actually the person that's going to be processing them, writing down the determination on that paper application, sending the notices to the families, and checking the direct certification system. So what is the direct certification system? You hear us refer to, almost everything in acronyms. If we say DCA, we're talking about the direct certification application. So the direct certification application is where you're going to find your students in your district that are already certified for SNAP, TANF, FDPIR. Most of the time, you should see those that are in foster care, certified as homeless, migrant, or runaway marked in there, but not always. So we'll get to that in just a minute. But the big thing is that all of these students that are found on the direct certification list, they're going to get free meals, and it's automatic. There's no further action needed from the family. So I'll show you and talk about that just a little bit more. So if you are doing the determinations for your district, you are that determining official, we need to make sure that you have DCA access. So unfortunately, we're not going to do a live demo of DCA today just because we don't want to have any issues with anybody who's not supposed to have access already being able to see this stuff. There is a lot of sensitive student data in there and we take it seriously. So I'm just going to show you what that screen looks like. Should jog your memory if you don't know what it looks like. So this would be our DCA system, and you're going to log in using the same login as MAPS and MAPS and GEMS. So MAPS, DCA, and GEMS all share what's called a common login. So just remember that if you come to DCA and forget that and say, oh, I want to reset my password, once you do reset that, it's now going to change for MAPS too, and GEMS if you use GEMS. If you are new to the district or maybe like roles changed and now you need access to DCA, you're going to need to use what's called a user access request form, and most likely you'll hear us refer to that in an acronym as well, the UAR. So there's a user access request form for DCA here, and there's also one for MAPS. Let me change my screen share real quick. When you are on the home screen for MAPS, you'll see user access request form right here. You can find them on our website as well. We try to stick them everywhere. So just make sure that if you need access and you don't have it yet, you need to have that completed. It's basic information. I am John Smith. I'm with this district, and you're going to have your authorized representative, i.e. your superintendent, sign this, and then you'll send it into our office and we'll process it. So real quick, I'm gonna get back to my slides. Okay, so we talked about access. So why do we think it's important? These students that are already on the direct certification system, they are students of high need. They're already certified for a high need program like SNAP or TANF or FDPIR. We want to make sure that these students get access to that free meal right away without interruption. And we want to make sure that that family is receiving the benefit. It's really important to those families maybe to keep that budget balanced. It's also really nice for you guys at the district because this just lessens the burden of administrative paperwork that you guys have to do. So if you receive an application from a family that you already have on your direct certification list, you can just file that away. You don't have to take the time to process it. And we'll talk about that a little, like the filing and stuff, in just a couple slides. But it's really important that you run your direct certification list first and start there, because it will reduce a ton of time later if you are receiving those duplicate applications. Another thing that's really important for is qualifying for the community eligibility provision. So we often refer to this as CEP. CEP schools, maybe a whole district can get certified as CEP. Basically, once you reach 40% or higher of students enrolled in your district are already on the direct certification list, they're already on qualifying assistance programs, you can choose to opt into CEP, which means that 100% of your students are served free meals. So no student needs to pay for a meal. So if you are close to the 40% qualifying, I believe it's at 30%, 30 to 40%, Allie starts reaching out in the spring and saying, hey, you're close, do you want to start this discussion? And what would that mean for you? How does that change your claiming, any processes in your school, and additional paperwork? So it's really important. We want to see that the direct certification list is as up to date as possible. And there are some things that you guys can do at the district to help with that. And other things like the assistance programs will just be out of your control. But I'll talk about that in just another couple slides. So here's how all of this works. So here you are at the school district. We've got our student data that we're putting into AIM, right? Well, we also have all of this data over here from DPHHS. So they're the ones that are certifying SNAP, TANF, FDPIR. What happens is that these data, huge data files, go and match. Some of them are every night, like SNAP goes and tries to matches with AIM every night. So that's how students start showing up on the DCA list. They're checking each student, each unique student's information, and it's cross-checking things like first name, last name, grade level, birth date, maybe their address and county that they reside in. So it's trying to make that match between what is in AIM and what DPHHS has. If it reaches 90% or greater, almost all these things are matching, or hopefully all of them are matching. We say, great, this is a match, and it shows up on your DCA list. If you have maybe some like miscues or mistypes in AIM, or maybe DPHHS does, or a student has changed their name, for example, if something is not quite right and not enough of the categories are matching up, it will flag that student and they show up on another list. So if you're trying to bring up your DCA numbers, that's one thing that we might tell you at the local level that you need to go check, and we're going to help you work through how to process those potential matches. So we have this match, shows up on our list, right? You go log into DCA and you're gonna run that report and it shows you this list of all of your students. It'll show them by each site. So let's say you have an elementary, a middle school, and a high school. You're gonna get one report, but it'll break them out into sections by those 3 sites and tell you those students' names and when they were certified. You're gonna take that list, download it, make sure you update your POS, right? We've got Johnny, Susie, Sally that all show up on this list. We're gonna update the POS right away, and then it just goes around and around and around. So as you keep checking DCA, we just keep going around this circle, triangle. So how often do we do this? Like I said, it's really important that you check at minimum 3 times a year, and there are rough time frames on when to do this. I believe the wording is something like at or near the beginning of the year, you should be checking DCA. We always like to encourage best practice, like start it first before school starts, get that list going so that when you start collecting those free and reduced applications in the first week of school, you already have something to check against that, yes, Johnny, Susie, and Sally are already on this list, so I can take this application and file it away, but I don't have to take the time to process it. Once you have that list and you're updating your POS, you do have to notify your households. So sending them a letter saying, hey, you're on the direct certification list, you're gonna receive meals to you at no cost for the year. And then at the beginning of the year, you're also sending out those free and reduced applications to your district so that anybody who's not on that direct certification list has the opportunity to fill that out. And this might not even be paper applications at this point. I know a lot of you are using like online applications through your POS software, or maybe some of you got signed up already for the OPI, free and reduced online application system. And if you haven't seen that or heard of that and are interested, reach out to your specialist and we'll show you kind of what that looks like and get you set up. It's really slick. Parents just access it, walk through it, and then submit, and you see it in your DCA login, and it already makes the determination for you. It's very nice. If you like electronic stuff and want to reduce your workload, highly recommend reaching out to inquire about this. And then, like I said, last thing, you're required to conduct direct certification checks at least 3 times a year. Obviously, the more the better. You're going to catch students in a time, like recent ads, in a timely fashion. So sorry. Like Kim, I guess I've been talking too much today. If you're not checking like monthly or bi-monthly, at least check like at the beginning of the school year, the middle of the school year, and then, you know, like mid-spring would be great. If you're a larger district, checking more often is definitely recommended. Okay, so I know we couldn't log into DCA, but, I'm sorry, I didn't do it live, but this is what you're gonna see when you log in. This is your home screen. Now, you can see, like the easiest place that you're gonna go is right down here. Near the bottom on the left, you're gonna see direct certification report. This is gonna be your best friend. Consider this home plate. You're gonna go here all the time. You're gonna pull this, you're gonna click on this, and it's gonna give you a couple of options for this report. You're gonna maybe select dates or programs. I generally recommend that you don't change much of that. It'll default to the whole year that you're looking for. And you want to be looking for all the programs that are listed in there. But you can certainly filter things down if you choose to. So you can pull your direct certification report and get that list, and then go into that triangle where you're updating your POS system and keep that list that you pulled on file, either electronic format if you have a secure storage or secure computer, or keep a paper file if you choose paper, and make sure that that is stored securely too. If you ever want to go back and look at something, let's say, you can pull this report. It's called Snapshot Direct Certification Report. This is going to ask you for the month that you want to look at. So let's say you misplaced or spilled coffee on your report from last month, and you pull a new report, but Billy Joe has dropped off the list, and you know he was on there last month. You can go back in time. This is real time. This, you can go back in time. So you're going to select your potentially your year, but you can also select the month that you're looking back at and pull that report and say, yes, I knew Billy Joe was on here. Keep this new report on file. If you ever want to double check things on a student, for example, you can always sift through these these options up here. You can select students and like search for a student by name. You could try to search for a case number. You could try to work those potential matches like I was talking about in the eligibility sources. You can, if you ever want to take a look at those, I would be happy to walk you through your district with your data and show you exactly how to do that. Okay, free and reduced priced application, our favorite, right? I know this says 1819, I apologize. We didn't go get a new screenshot. I promise you it's the same thing this year as it was this year as it was 2 years ago. So make sure that when you're processing these, that you are ensuring that all of the applicable information is on there, as well as if you have inside knowledge. I know many of you know your families inside and out. Make sure that if this family applied and they just missed, that you can add all children in the household, not just school-age children, that they're counting, you know, baby or toddler at home too into their household number, because that's really important to make sure that we're counting all those bodies. So we want to see that these kids are listed. Did they check any of these boxes? Migrant, foster, runaway, or homeless? If they just fill this out and put on their SNAP case number, we want to make sure that we're looking for that. If they have that 6-digit number in there, great. Making sure that the parents or adults are listed in here, and that overall this is matching their household number. So maybe they knew that little baby could be counted on here and we have a family of 5, but we only have 4 people listed. That's definitely a situation I would make notes about. If you know this family, you can make a note like, family, talk to mom at the office, she forgot to add baby. Keep that paper trail, like make that sticky note and stick it on the application, so that if you ever had to refer back to it, you can say, yep, on September 17th, I talked to mom, we added the baby, verified that there are 5 people on here. If you have a different system for your paper trail, I'm all for it. I just want to see that breadcrumb trail, and you know, you could explain what happened and why. As you're processing, making sure that we're within the correct time frame. So you have 10 operating days from the receipt of the application to have it processed, make a determination, and send notice to the family. I know the beginning of school year is just chaos. Maybe that's not quite the right word. Maybe it doesn't feel like that to you guys that are organized, but in my house, it feels like chaos. There's a lot of stuff going on. So just be cognizant of that. If you are the one taking the applications, you're the one getting handed the application, write that date that you got the application received right here. If you are receiving them from someone else who's maybe sitting at the front desk and then they hand you a stack of applications, make sure that they know that. If it's not daily that they're handing them to you, that they know they should be noting that, because it is important to keep that time frame in mind. Zero income. So let's say a family submits this application, has all the names, all the address, they've signed it, it doesn't say anything on it. that is technically not incomplete and shouldn't hold up processing. Of course, you could ask them and make sure that that is what they intended to have on there, but just because they don't write anything in there doesn't mean that it's wrong. It should be considered the same as if they wrote zeros in there and said, we have zero income. Edits to the application. Like I said, you are free to make clarifications on this application. If, for example, you call the family and have a conversation, you could, add that name in there for that child, or you could choose to keep the notes on that post-it note. All I'm saying is that you don't have to go the extra mile and require that they come in, make that edit, and then you can process it. That shouldn't be anything that holds you up. Error-prone applications. So I know most of you have a POS software that will grab error-prone applications on their own for verification, but for anybody who is processing these by hand, error-prone is something that you will need to know when you are performing verification. So it's definitely a good thing to look for as you're processing. So you get this application, you calculate out what the income is, and then when you look at the income eligibility table and you see that that family is within $100 of the cutoff, they're really close. They go into what's called the error-prone pile, and if you are forced to do an error-prone sample for verification, it's really nice to know ahead of time who those applications are, so that you're not stuck with sifting through potentially tens or hundreds of applications to find that. Signatures. So we want to see that this signature is signed. That is one thing that I definitely stress, that if you're having a hard time getting signatures on your applications and you're constantly having to do follow-up with families because they do need to sign that, I would suggest like maybe highlighting it. If you're handing out paper forms, take a big highlighter and circle that area, or in your back to school newsletter mentioning like it's imperative that you guys sign these. Really whatever works for you guys. Social security number. This is a big one that I see. So let's say this family forgot to add their social security number. You can clarify with them, hey, do you have a social security number to put on here, or did you mean to check this box that says check if no social security number? If a family does not have a social security number, that doesn't mean that they can't submit a free and reduced application and they won't be eligible for meals. I would just make sure that either one of these is filled out or checked, because that is important. 30-day drop. Okay, so a lot of times we refer to this as the 30-day carryover, 30-day drop. So what this means is that any determination from last year, so this family, the Smiths, they were qualified for free based on their application. They have 30 days into the next school year on that free status still to receive those free benefits. So it's important that you're counting operating days and not just calendar days, because that can make, another 2 weeks for a family, and maybe even longer if you guys are a 4-day school week. So it just gives that family enough time to get their paperwork in, get it processed, and gives them that benefit until then. Now, the caveat to that is that if they come in and submit a new batch of paperwork, they submit a new application, and let's say this year they are approved for reduced meals, that will take precedent over the status from last year. So they have either 30 days or until a new determination is made, if it's not the same. And then last thing, I talked about the online application. We do have a recorded webinar on this in the download forms if you'd rather see the webinar and see it live. Or like I said, you can call one of us and we're happy to talk talk about it with you and maybe show you. Okay, so organization for your applications. Now, this isn't a requirement. You are free to organize however works for you. If you are a huge fan of alphabetical order, by all means, go for it. If that's what you want to organize like, that's great. The reason that we bring these 5 categories up and train on it is because this will help you when you're looking at verification, because we do need to see these numbers and have these broken out when you're doing your verification numbers. So if this works for you, great. So that we technically see them as 5 separate categories. If you like I mentioned, if you have an application that comes in and that kiddo is already directly certified, you have to keep that on file, but you can stick it, in the back of the binder in a totally separate section and say, I didn't even process this, but you're still required to keep it on file. If you get an application that we call free categorical, so that's where on that application, they have checked one of these: homeless, migrant, foster, or runaway. So these are going to be called free categorical. And you're going to want to know that number when you do verification. If you get applications that are just standard, they entered in their family size and their income and you process it, this is the free based on income category. Same here, it's just, you process the application and you determine that they are reduced. You want to keep those separate too. And then always, if you get an application and you process it and the family is denied, you want to keep that on file. Okay, so looking at the timeline, how we like to encourage you to do it. So first of all, like I've said a couple of times already, I apologize for sounding like a broken record. You're gonna check that direct certification list right away at the beginning of the year. You're gonna send notice of that to the families. You're gonna send that letter saying you're certified for free meals for the year. Then you're gonna send out your applications to everybody. So this is right away at the beginning of the year. We're processing these as they come in within that 10 days or sooner. Once you make that determination, same thing, you're gonna have to send notifications. So I know some POS systems will have a templated letter already for you in the system that you can potentially modify to include like your district name, any clarifications that you want to add in there, or we have templates on our in our download form sections too that do the same thing. So if you don't already have a template or you're processing applications by hand, feel free to use our letters and our DCA letter and just insert that kiddo's name, check the box for what determination they've been given, and mail that to the families. And then if you continue to get applications, because they can submit applications at any point throughout the year, you're just going to do the same thing. Process, send notifications, repeat. Rinse, dry, repeat. We have a great resource from the USDA. We call the eligibility manual, and it really walks through a lot of things if you are processing applications. It talks about, what a household composition might be, what things qualify as income, special circumstances for, gosh, so many different example scenarios. How to process self-employment income for, let's say, a self-employed entrepreneur or a farming family. And we also, because that one is very common in Montana, we have pulled the pieces out of the eligibility manual that are pertinent to self-employed or farming income and created more of like a cheat sheet, a quick guide that's also available on our website. If you do go looking for something in the eligibility manual, I highly suggest that you do Control F, the search function, and then type in the word that you're looking for, and that will definitely help you time-wise to narrow down what sections you want to be looking in, because it is a behemoth. I think it's 117 pages, maybe. So definitely utilize the search function if you're looking for something. Okay, verification. I think we're getting really close to taking a break, so stick with me, guys. Verification. So you are probably familiar with this form. We do still offer the paper form because it can be nice to go through and fill out these sections by hand before you're going to go into maps and submit this. If you are proficient at this and want to just jump right into maps and submit your report every year, by all means, you can skip the printed version. So this is going to walk you through what we are asking for every year. So we're going to report our number of schools. So most of you are not RCCIs, you are normal schools. You're going to say, I have this number of schools, this number of students in my district. If you have any what we call alternate provisions like CEP I mentioned, you would fill out this section, or we are going to skip that. And then down at the bottom, it's going to ask you for number of applications based on the free status, how many number of applications were processed and have the reduced status, and how many students is that. So let's say one application has 3 students, it'll ask you for the number of students independent of the number of applications. So after you've totaled up all of your applications, you're going to decide how many to pull for verification, right? How many do I have to verify? Most of you are going to be in the 3% random. If you have a low response rate from the year previous, so less than 80% of your families responded when you requested documentation to verify their application from the previous year, you're going to get a note from Allie saying, you're on the error prone list. We're requiring you to pull 3% from that error prone, those applications within $100 of the cutoffs for each category. So sometimes if you don't get a lot of applications, I know some of you don't receive that many applications, and you might pull 1 for verification. So it's really critical that that family responds, because you're either a 100% response rate or you're a 0% response rate. So you really want those families to be turning in their paperwork and go through the verification process. So like I said, most of you are going to fall into this 3% random. And here are examples. So if you have 28 applications that are subject to verification, multiply that by 0.03 for 3%, and you get 0.84. Well, you can't pull 0.84 applications. We're always going to ask that you round up. So you get 1 application. You're going to choose that 1 application for verification. And by the same math, if you're a large district, you get 361 applications times 3%. We get just not quite 11, rounded up. We're going to pull that 11 applications. So how do we do verification? On October 1st, you're going to take that snapshot. How many applications do I have? So we have, I think it's right here. So we have this verification activity tracker that's going to show you, it's going to basically walk you through how to do verification. So I'm going to go back real quick. So let's say that you are that school with 28 applications. You've done the math. You're going to pull 1 application. So however you want to do that randomly. If you're really small and you want to place them face down on the table, shuffle them up and ask the superintendent to come by and point at one, that's fine. That's random. If you have a computer system that will do this for you, even better. Basically, you're going to select that 1 application at random, and now we start going through the process. So the first thing you're going to do is conduct a confirmation review. Somebody besides yourself You can't double check your own work. Somebody besides yourself is going to go through it and make sure that they confirm what your original determination was. So, of course, make sure that this person should be seeing this kind of information, sensitive student data and family data. Maybe your superintendent would be appropriate. Make sure that they are confirming it. They're going to go through, count the same number of bodies. They're going to make sure that they got the same income for the year and that they find the same category as you did. They're going to sign off on the confirmation area of that application, and then we're going to continue on. So attempt direct verification. This isn't super common. If you, for example, got an application with a case number on it, but you got it like a SNAP letter. Somebody came in with their SNAP letter that says, turn this into your school, you get free meals for the year for these students. Well, if you go into your DCA system and they're not on there, you can still take that letter and say, yes, they should be provided free meals, but they're not technically directly certified until they show up on your DCA report. So you're going to put them in a separate pile. They will be subject to verification. So let's say that got pulled and the Joneses are on here. You can now attempt direct verification. You're going to go into DCA and say, by golly, since last month when I got this, now they are in the DCA system on the list, and I have directly verified that yes, they are eligible for free meals. And you know what? You're done. It doesn't happen very often, but it's amazing when it does, because then you don't have more paperwork to do. You just send them you skip the middle section and continue on the list of sending the letter that you have verified their results. So if you don't get one of these, and let's say it's one of these applications based on income, that's most likely what you're going to run into. You're going to start sending letters. You're going to send the notification to the household and say, hey, you've been randomly selected and I need to receive income documentation from you to support the information that you put on your free and reduced application. So probably in your letter template, or if you use ours, it gives specific examples. I need to see your pay stubs, or however you're receiving your wages. I want to see your pay stubs from a certain pay period. It needs to contain your name on it and the dates that you were paid from all your jobs, if you have more than one job. And they're going to send that in to you. So once you collect it, you're going to go through, look at the pay stub and verify, does the math work out? And from what they provided, are they still eligible for this benefit determination? Now, there are special circumstances, like maybe they are self-employed and they say, my income varies considerably monthly. So showing 1 month of income might not necessarily reflect the annual income if you were to extrapolate it. So you could look at maybe taxes from the previous year, if that's still indicative of what they are receiving this year. You might look at it and say, gosh, they worked 90 hours in this pay period. You can ask them, is that accurate? Like, do you normally work overtime, or is this a special case? So be looking for things like that as you're processing, not just going through the math, because that might make all the difference for a family if they potentially got some overtime that isn't normally due to them. So after you've reviewed all the documentation and you see that either yes, they still qualify for this benefit, or no, something has changed, you're going to send notification. And if you do send a new status notification, you're required to give them a certain amount of time to before that benefit becomes effective. So if they're getting a reduced benefit, they should have 10 calendar days for that change to take effect. Okay, like I said, the verification activity tracker, I know it's really tiny, hard to read right now, but this will walk you through what you should be doing during the month of October for your verification, and gives you dates to space to write things like dates, date of pre-review completed, following up with non-responding households. If they didn't respond the first time, you can note here, like called mom on 10/10 asking for stuff, called mom again on 10/15 asking for stuff. Just a way to document that you are moving through this process. So that being said, once you have all of this information, how many applications you pulled, if they changed status or if they stayed the same status, you're going to go into maps. Once you log in, you're going to, if you have multiple programs like this year, many of you are doing summer, you're going to make sure that you're in the school nutrition tile, which lights up this bar in blue, or maybe you've noticed if you select summer, this now becomes the salmon pink. After you're in school year, you're going to go up to applications, come down to the verification report, and then you're going to select the current year and start that report, enter in all your information and submit. So we do ask that you're in there by November 15th and submitting this stuff. I do understand that sometimes things come up and maybe you're a couple of days behind. We aren't going to take away your birthday. So just ask that you keep that date in mind and try to meet that deadline if possible. Whew, okay. That was a lot of information. I'm going to pause here, you guys, and we're going to take a break. It's 2:23. How about if we come back at 2:30? That's 7 minutes to get up and stretch your legs, get some water, and then we'll come back and Kelly will start talking about the administrative review. And I'm here, so in this 6 minutes, if you guys want to chime in with questions or put things in the chat, feel free.
right, so I've got 2:30. I'll give everyone just a couple more seconds to get situated. I hope that you got up and stretched and got some water. And we're going to switch gears and talk about administrative reviews. All right. So let me get this going. Okay, so the timeline. Every 5 years, we are going to visit your school. So it used to be every 3, but we really wanted to stretch it out to every 5 because we wanted to offer an opportunity the year before your review to do like a technical assistance visit. So we wanted, instead of just coming on site every few years and saying like, these are the things that you need to fix, and then leaving, we wanted to have the opportunity to come the year before your review and really set you up for success, answer any questions that you have, and help you feel confident about your review the next year. So that's why it got pushed to every 5. So this year, it's going to be probably more like October, you're going to get a notification that your school is on review this year. And because this year is different, we are not going to be able to come on site. Everything is going to be done off-site. So in that initial email that's sent out in October, there's going to be a lot of details about how the review is going to take place. So there will be a lot of information helping you prepare with what it's going to look like this year. It'll also, the notification will let you know that your off-site questions are ready, and then you can go into Maps and answer any of those off-site questions. 30 days prior to your review, you are going to get the mini review folder in the mail. So this is going to be for the food service directors. This is where the menu and production records and recipes are all going to be put in this mini review folder and mailed back to the specialist. You're also going to get an email from the person conducting your review, letting you know that your review date, that you're on review, and also, again, there's going to be more details in that email specific to your school about how the review is going to work this year. Your day of review, again, is going to be different because we're going to be doing this completely remote, and it's actually might look a little bit more of like a week of review. And that's just because typically when we come on site, we're able to ask for all the documentation that we need while we're there. And we understand with doing everything off site and communicating mostly by phone and email, it's just going to take longer to communicate and to get that documentation sent back and forth. So the review is going to look more like a week. And then again, this is going to be really up to your specialist or your reviewer about when to set up those Zoom meetings and how that's going to look. So you'll work really closely with them on your review. Then afterwards, if there were any things that we found while we were on site that need to be corrected, we'll write those up as corrective actions. And then you will get an email letting you know that those are ready for you to respond to. So you'll go into Maps and then you'll respond to any of those corrective actions with plans of how you are going to correct or correct in the future any of those findings that happened on site. So that's really just the general timeline of what it's going to look like this year. And I think with everything, we were just trying to be flexible and try to figure out. I know a lot of you guys that are on review this year are doing SFSP, so your review may not be until later next year, or it may get pushed back. Again, we're still working out all the details on what that's going to look like this year. So thanks for being flexible. Okay, so I'm going to go into the programs checklist and we'll just go through this together. All right, so let me switch really quick. Okay, so when you go to Maps, you'll go to Applications and Download Forms. And this is where you're going to find the 2021 school year checklist. So if you ever have any questions about certain deadlines or what all needs to be done, this is a great place to start because it really breaks down all of the tasks and timelines on this checklist. We also really encourage schools to get together at the end of, or at the beginning of the year to get all those key players in there and to figure out who's doing what throughout the year. That way you have a really clear plan of who's doing it and when it needs to be completed by. Okay, so we'll just go through these together. Okay, so we'll do free and reduced benefits, completing direct cert, so everything that Rochelle just talked about. Mailing the free and reduced applications if they're not directly certified, approving those, and then updating any free and reduced students from the previous school year without a current application to paid status. So again, if you are on SFSP, you still do want to collect free and reduced applications because it's likely that you're going to have to go back to NSLP at the beginning of January. And I know in the chat box there were comments about how it's just been really hard to get parents to send in those applications when their kids are eating for free. And there were a couple of great ideas of just reminding parents that the free and reduced percentage, there are so many other fundings, there's so much other funding that comes from that percentage. So it's important that you get those in. Also, just reminding parents that this will end on December 31st and that things will go back to NSLP in January and that you want their kids to have the right benefit status. Then if you're CEP, there are going to be some certain deadlines for you as CEP. And Allie, who Rochelle was talking about earlier, is such a great resource if you have really specific questions about your school and whether you qualify or if you're close to qualifying. She's a great person to reach out to and ask. Then we have verification. And I will say that we are, if you're on SFSP, we have asked what's going to happen with verification since all kids are eating for free right now. What does that look like? Is there going to be a different timeline? So as of right now, we don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but we have reached out to the regional office to ask about verification. So we will let you know when we know. Required self-reviews, I'll actually pull that up here in a little bit and we can briefly go over that because I do feel like that's something that is frequently overlooked when doing the review process. If you're part of the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program, you will be invited. And so this, there are, again, certain deadlines. Caroline Olson is our Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program Manager. So if you have any specific questions, she's a great person to call. Professional standards, this is more for the food service staff. There aren't any professional standards training for like clerks specifically. If you are the person that's at the point of sale system, obviously we want you to know like what a reimbursable meal looks like and to know the responsibilities of that job. But as far as like keeping track of training hours, this is really meant for the food service staff. And then some annual requirements. So updating your sponsor site application, your food service director is going to complete production records on a daily basis. If you are offering breakfast, then completing some sort of breakfast outreach. So this can be with sending menus home. You can post the menu on your school website, just letting parents know that you do offer breakfast at the school. So we actually submit the public release to the media now, so you don't have to worry about that. We do ask that you request 2 sanitation inspections a year, and I'll actually show you, we'll go through some download forms information, and I'll show you where you can find the template for that. So basically, we just ask that you request 2 sanitation inspections a year. You may not get 2, most likely you'll probably only get 1, and that's fine, just as long as you are requesting 2. And then if you do, or when you do get a inspection, just making sure that you are posting that in a publicly visible place so that if a parent or a teacher or someone wanted to see that, they could just come up and look at it and not have to ask. You will need to complete the civil rights training with all school nutrition program staff. So a lot of times people will ask, well, who needs to complete civil rights training? And it's really anyone who has even like a finger in the food service program. If they have any involvement in it, then make sure that they are doing the civil rights training. And again, I'll show you where you can find the PowerPoint slides for that, as well as a sheet to like a sign-up sheet. You'll want to post your And Justice for All posters in the cafeteria. The paid lunch equity tool, you will actually, we'll let you know if that's something that you need to fill out, and our office will help you with that. I will say it is not the most user-friendly tool. It is a little confusing. So Clay has become such a whiz on that. So if you do need to fill this out, he will contact you and then can help you out with that. And I believe that's the same thing with the non-program revenue tool. So ongoing, just ensuring that all items sold during the day meet Smart Snacks regulations. You want to make sure, and we do check this when we come on site for the review, that you have a district-wide charging policy. And this just means if a child came out to pay for their meal and they didn't have any funds in their account, like what would happen? And this is really, again, up to the district, what happens if there's no money. So maybe laying out a plan like, if it gets to a certain amount, we call the parents or we email. We do encourage, though, that basically the kid isn't, I guess, punished for not having funds. Again, this is not their fault. And if it's possible that they can just take a normal meal and not have an alternate meal, that's really ideal. Because again, we don't want the kid to have to bear that burden of not having money in their account. But again, this is completely up to the district what you plan on doing, just making sure that you have some sort of system in place that everyone knows what to do if a child doesn't have money in their account. You're going to want to review the wellness policy and assess the wellness policy implementation and then communicate the results. So we're going to actually have a whole different section about the wellness policy and discuss that. You'll want to review and update the HACCP plan. So this is, I guess, yeah, more for the food service directors, making sure that you have a copy at each school. Develop and implement district-wide food service procurement procedures. So I'm going to talk about procurement here coming up. That you're posting breakfast and lunch signs about what constitutes a reimbursable meal for offer versus serve. And then conducting outreach for the nearest summer food service program. So even if you are not running a summer food service program site at your school, at the end of the year, you do need to just let students and parents know where the closest summer food service site is. And then submit USDA food orders and sign up for DoD Fresh and MAPS. So yeah, that's just quick going through the checklist. Again, this is just a great resource if you're like, I don't know what to do or where the timelines are to start here. Okay, so I'm gonna switch gears, give me just a second. Okay, so now we are back in applications and we're back in download forms. So I wanted to show you a few things here. Okay, so first of all, here are the PowerPoint slides to the civil rights training. So if you wanna follow what we have, you can just download this, and then here's a sheet where you can document all the staff that attended. If you go down, here's your notification to the sanitarian. So this is a template that you can use. So you don't have to just make up your own letter. Okay, going down. Free and reduced applications, as well as instructions, and also a frequently asked questions letter. This is really helpful if you've been getting a lot of phone calls. Yeah, with similar questions about free and reduced apps, go ahead and make sure that you're sending out this letter to the households, and it answers a lot of those questions. Here are also the income eligibility guidelines. If you're a part of the fresh fruit and vegetable program, here are all the resources for that. Here is the local meal charge policy. So some considerations that you, so you can click on that. If you, yeah, there's also a lot of meal charge policies out there. I know I've just Googled them, and so you can see what other schools are doing. And then here's the required self-review. And I just wanted to click on this again, because it's just something that often gets overlooked. So pull this up. And this is really just ensuring that you have a good meal counting system in place. So one of the main things is the point of sale taken at the end of the serving line, or a determination can be made that a reimbursable meal has been selected. So it's important to have that point of service at the end. That way, whoever is putting in the students' numbers or taking the meal counts knows that a reimbursable meal has been selected. So basically, you just go through this. Is the person monitoring correctly identifying the reimbursable meal? Does the cashier know the policy for handling certain situations? Are daily meal counts accurately totaled, recorded, and reported? So again, this is probably not the person that's at the point of sale system needs to do this, because then you'd kind of be evaluating yourself. So it's someone else, preferably, again, not the person at the point of sale, and maybe not the food service director, but someone else, if there is another person in food service that knows the requirements and what a reimbursable meal looks like. So anyways, yeah, so you can go through this, and this is just ensuring that everything has been done correctly. If there is something that wasn't done correctly, no big deal. You'll just put a no by this. This is exactly what this sheet is for. It's a second set of eyes on the program. So if there's something not done correctly, no big deal. What's going to happen is that you will just want to talk about the corrective action that needs to be taken. Who's going to implement it? So who's going to, maybe there just needs to be more training done. Who's going to train? And then you'll just do a follow-up review at making sure that any of those problems were corrected. All right, so let me switch again. Okay, so I think we pretty much went through all of this when talking about that. Okay. And again, there's the required self-reviews that we just went over. So this does need to be done for breakfast and lunch by February 1st of every year. And then if you operate an after-school program, then you'll want to do this once within the first 4 weeks of the program and another one before the end of the program year. And then, like pretty much everything, we ask that you keep this on file for 3 years plus the current year. Okay, and I think the last thing in this section is meal counting and claiming, which I'm sure you guys are all very familiar with. So when you go to enter your claims, you'll go to maps, go here to claims. You can claim S&P and FFVP. And then this is what it will look like. So you'll enter number of meals, and then it'll show you the date they received it, the date it was processed, and if your claim status has been processed, and then how much money you'll get. Okay, so we'll stop there for a second. All right. So I'm going to, before we get started with this, first of all, are there any questions about the checklist? So I'll kind of pause on that, but I will, while you're thinking about that, we'll do a poll about procurement. Okay, so let's go ahead and launch that. Also, feel free to think of any questions. You can type them in the chat box. Sounds like that's been happening, or you can unmute yourself and ask them out loud. All right, so I'll give you probably about like 30, 45 seconds to fill this out. Also, this is anonymous, so I do not know how you answered. So there's no judgment. All right, so we'll give you, we'll go to a minute. So we'll give you 20 more seconds. All right, so about 5 more seconds and we will end it. Okay, so I feel you. For the people that said help, I'm lost. I think procurement, it is one of those things that is for some reason, it's just been difficult to get a grasp on. And sometimes I feel like I understand it, and then I get a question and I'm like, okay, I don't know anymore. And I think because I was trying to think about why that is. And so often with certain requirements, everything is like really black and white. Like you do this, every school, it looks the same. And you do it by this certain timeline, and it's just really black and white. And procurement is sort of this gray area because it's going to look so different for every school, for what size of school you have, for what vendors or grocery stores that you have in your area, how rural you are. So yeah, I just feel like procurement is one of those things. It's difficult because there's a lot of gray areas. Okay. So we'll go through just some basics first, and then we'll kind of get into the details of the thresholds. So like I was saying before, with pretty much everything, we want to make sure that you're keeping all cost documentation on file for 3 years plus the current year. And I think the best way to do this is really just to keep like a procurement binder that you have everything in there. When you're done for the year, you can tuck that away and start a new binder the following year. You want to make sure that you only have allowable cost. So Deb brought this scenario up on Tuesday, and I thought it was a really great example. So she went to an elementary school and noticed that on one of their receipts, there was coffee and creamer. So probably not brewing coffee for the elementary school kids. And come to find out, it was just something the food service had ordered for the teacher's lounge. And that's fine. The food service director is doing the one ordering. Why not just have them order that? However, we do need to see that if there is a non-allowable cost on a receipt, that there's some sort of reimbursement that matches that to the food service fund. So it's fine for the food service director to order that. Just make sure that funding is coming from somewhere else to reimburse it, because the food service fund is just meant for the kids. And then we'll talk about price quotes here in just a second. Okay, so the USDA has come up with basically 3 tiers of purchasing. Purchases less than $10,000 are considered a micro purchase. Purchases greater than $10,000 and less than $80,000 are considered small. And then purchases greater than $80,000 are considered formal. So that means that if you are, and this is not like the entire year, so this is not like I purchase from Cisco and I spend more than $10,000 the whole year. This is like actually per check you're writing. So this is like per check that you're writing to the vendor, like, is it less than $10,000? So most likely, like a majority of the schools are going to fall into that threshold. Now, because this is federal money, there are certain strings attached and certain requirements for each threshold. So for the micro purchase threshold, the string attached is that you have to distribute that money equitably among qualified suppliers. So you as a school can completely make that determination as like what a qualified supplier is. But so say, for example, you order from Cisco, you shop at Costco, and you go to the local grocery store, Albertsons. Well, at the end of the year, if you've spent your money, I don't know, pretty equitably, I'd say within like $1,000 of each other, okay, great, you've met that requirement. And I would say if that does happen, it might be on accident. I don't know if anyone's like really, maybe really actively trying to like spread the wealth. But yeah, if it's all pretty much the same, like I said, maybe within $1,000 of each other, then okay, great, you have met that, and you're good to go. However, I would say most people purchase from one vendor predominantly. So you don't always have time to go shopping at Costco or go to Albertsons. Like, you want your stuff to be ordered and you want it to be delivered. And so you're spending a majority of your money with one company. Okay, great. So that doesn't really meet that micro purchase threshold. You may want to move up then to the small purchase. So even though you're not spending between $10,000 and $80,000, that's okay. You can move up thresholds, because what happens is that basically the requirements get stricter, and so you can move up, you just can't move down. Okay, so you purchase most of your stuff from Cisco. Well, the main reason to do this is that the USDA just wants to make sure that you're not buying from Cisco because that's just always how it's been. Or like the food service director before you bought from Cisco. So you just automatically did that. They want to make sure that with this federal money that you are doing your due diligence and that you are making sure that you're finding food and supplies that meet your needs at a good cost. Okay, so you purchase from Cisco, but US Foods also delivers to your school. So this is a great opportunity to compare those two companies. So you can write your, and we'll talk about this here a little bit later, but you can write your, maybe like your top 10 items that you always purchase. You'll write specifications for those, and then you'll send the specifications for those top 10 items to both of the distributors. So you'll send one to Cisco, one to US Foods, and you'll wait to see what they send you. Perfect. You've gotten price quotes, you're price comparing, you have met this requirement. I will say though that if US Foods comes back and they have actually like better prices than Cisco, but they can't deliver when you need them to deliver, or maybe their customer service isn't as great, then you can choose the vendor that meets like the most of your needs. So say for example, you just cannot get deliveries at noon. This is the height of your lunch. There is too much going on. You need them either in the morning or in the afternoon. Well, US Foods is only going through your town at noon, and that's the only time that they can make a delivery. Well, even though they have cheaper prices, they can't meet your delivery schedule needs. Or maybe the quality of their food isn't as great. It's cheaper, but it's not as great. So you don't have to just pick the distributor that has the cheapest prices. You can choose the one, again, that best fits your needs. And I would say that a majority of schools are probably already doing this. You guys are already doing the research, doing your due diligence, and making sure that you're getting a good deal and getting what you need. It's just that the USDA loves paperwork and documentation, and so you just need to document all of these things. Basically, when we come on site, we need to be able to ask for your procedures and to really be able to see your thought process on why you chose to purchase the way that you did. Okay, so that is that one. So basically, yeah, you just need price quotes on that one, and then just really, yeah, writing out your thought process. This is why I've decided to choose to spend most of my money here. And then if you have a purchase greater than $80,000, that is considered a formal purchase. And this is really going to be for those large kitchen items, large equipment, or if you're maybe building a new kitchen at your school, this is when you're going to really need to do and go through that formal bid process. Okay, so those are the 3 tiers. Now also, a few other things that you're going to want in your policy is that you're going to need to have a Buy American provision. And this just means that you're going to buy American when it's feasible. So bananas, you might not be able to buy bananas grown here in America. And that's okay. We understand there's like certain things that just you can't, they don't grow here well and you just can't purchase them. However, if you have the option of buying potatoes from Idaho or buying potatoes from Canada, then buying the potatoes from Idaho, buying American would really be your first option there. And then there's also a standards of conduct. And this really means that, say a teacher is selling beef, and you can completely do this. Like if you want to buy local, like great, support your local farmers and your local ranchers. That's amazing. You can actually put like a local clause, a buy local clause in your policy. That's great. But if it came to a scenario where there is a teacher selling local beef, or you can get a like really similar product from another local rancher for half the price, you just need to document, like if you decide to buy that beef from the teacher, there just needs to document a really good reason as to why you chose that beef over the other local beef if they're like a really similar product. So just being aware of that. And we'll also, and again, I'm going to go into, we put together a procurement packet, and it has a lot of this language already written for you so that you don't just have to like come up with this language on your own, which is really helpful. Okay, so let me go ahead and I will share my screen and show you where you can find that on our website. All right, so let me back out of this. Okay, you can go back to our website. We are on the school nutrition page. And we'll go down to procurement. And then we'll go to resources and policies, and then the procurement resource packet. So this stuff is kind of, it's already, we've already had these resources out there. They were just kind of scattered. So Erin did a really great job of just combining these all into one document. So it was easier for schools to have everything in one place. And then you can see here, so we've written out SFA must have written codes of conduct. And so yeah, basically all this wording is here for you. Scroll on down. This is where you can put in your micro purchases, your small purchases, or any formal. Again, just more wording. So you can just go through, basically make sure that you have these policies in place. So again, our district food service department adheres to the Buy American provision, and this has wording for you. Click this, you can sign your name, date it. And then here's what I was talking about with the, the small purchase product specifications. So what you want to do is when you are asking for price quotes, you're really wanting to compare apples to apples. So you want to send the same specifications to each company, so they really you can have comparable information. All right, so your overview description, unit size, estimated quantity that you might be ordering at a time. And again, you can really we just say like top 5, top 10 items that you purchase, since that's going to be where a majority of your money is going. Technical requirements. So example, delivered before 4 p.m. at least 2 days per week, where the delivery location is. And then here, if you're wanting to, you're more than welcome to compare several vendors to see who can give you the best price. So if you want to compare 3 vendors, this is an informal pricing log for small purchases. And you can do this, you can even talk to them over the phone, so you can write down what date that you talked to them, how did you get the quote, did they send it to you via email, or did you talk to them over the phone and get the price? And then here is the sample food purchasing specification. So this is something, I don't know that I would have known how to have done before looking at this, but it really just breaks down specifications. So we want whole red delicious apples, packed to US fancy grade, 138 count, 40 pounds, really specific needs so that they can give you really specific prices on your products. So this is just a great resource when filling out that sheet. Okay, so that is pretty much everything on procurement. Rochelle, I don't know if there's been any questions in the chat box that we might want to ask out loud for those that are on the phone and can't see it. But if not, we can just move on to the next part. Or if anyone has any questions and want to say it out loud, you can unmute yourself.
I think we are good. Thanks,
Okay,
Kelly.
awesome. Yeah, no problem. And again, like I was saying, there's just, this isn't black and white. There are a lot of different scenarios for different schools. So if you're having a hard time figuring out which threshold your purchases fall under, you can call your specialist and they can help you with those really specific details. And then I think next up, so Elizabeth is going to present next. She is actually our first intern with the Montana Dietetic internship out of MSU. And so she's going to talk to you about the school wellness policy.
Thanks, Kelly. So like she said, I am talking today about school wellness. So school wellness policy is a written document of official policies that guide local educational agencies or school districts' efforts to establish a school environment that promotes students' health, well-being, and the ability to support by learning healthy eating and physical activity. So OPI believes that students must be healthy and safe to maximize their learning potential. The wellness program is tasked with supporting students, families, schools, and communities. This policy is regulated by the USDA, and there are specific requirements. So any school that participates in a child nutrition program, such as the National School Lunch Program or school breakfast program, they're required to have a school wellness policy. You can switch to the next slide. So school wellness policy is broken into two categories. The first one is requirements, and then the second one that I will be talking about is assessment. But I'll first go over what requirements mean. So what are they? The first requirement in a school wellness policy is that you must have goals set up in all 5 areas of wellness. So those are the nutrition guidelines, nutrition education, nutrition promotion, physical activity, and school wellness. The point of these are goals to support and benefit students. So yearly updates can be made. So the board annually confirms that the policy is still in place, but they aren't required to take any action. They're just required to look at them. So then the final requirement comes in when they assess them every 3 years. So this is when a state agency assesses the compliance of the wellness policy. And it is to look at the compliance of the wellness policy, how the wellness policy compares to models wellness policies, the progress being made, or the goals that they are setting being made. And then the state agency will examine and record these during the administration review. And what they're looking for is a copy of the current wellness policy, documentation on how the wellness policy and assessments are made available to the public, and then the most recent implementation of the policy, and then documentation. So you can flip to the next slide. The Hub course was put together by OPI, and it focuses on strategies contained in the nutrition environment and services category. This is an online learning platform that provides high-quality professional learning for Montana educators. It helps administrations understand the requirements for school wellness and how to assess them. So it's a tool that helps districts understand wellness policy better. It's helpful in answering many questions about school wellness policies, so it's a great resource. And then the last slide. So this is the second piece of school wellness policy, and it's assessment. So this is the triennial assessment where they come in every 3 years and make sure that the policy is in place and that the goals are being met. So simply put, the assessment is an in-depth look at the policy. So they look at things like, is it compliant with current USDA regulations? Were the goals set in each of the 5 areas of wellness? Are the goals being met? Why or why not? And then are the goals still relevant to the current focus? The last piece of assessment is to let the public know the results of the wellness policy, so they can be shared on a public platform such as a school website or a Facebook page. Not every school has a website, so a Facebook page could be an easy way, or if the school has like an app, just some way that parents and students and the public can see what the wellness policy is for the school. Kelly or Rochelle, is there anything else that you want to add?
No, great job, Elizabeth. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions on the wellness policy or the assessment of implementation on your wellness policy? Yes, thank you, Jackie. Jackie just put in the chat box that your first assessment must be completed by June 30th of 2021. So as was mentioned, we do look at this during the administrative review. We want to see what the most recent assessment is. So I would definitely suggest, if you have not done one yet and you're on review this year, please do that before your administrative review. And of course, we're going to be reaching out and communicating if you're on review. So that's a great time to ask questions about it, about anything you might need to do, what that would look like, time frames. So yeah, I say it often, please call or email us anytime. We love to hear from you guys and we love to hear your questions. So we'd much rather hear from you than hear you're struggling. And on that note, if anything is unclear as you're learning things and going through our resources, please let us know. It really just helps us better refine our resources or let us know where there are gaps. So definitely call or email. Okay, and with that, I believe that that is our last slide. We booked it through the training this afternoon, you guys. Congratulations, you're gonna have an extra hour and a half almost, because we finished well before 4:30. Yeah, if you have any questions, we will stay on for just a couple of minutes. And then aside from that, we will release you to go take care of all the things on your to-do list. Thank you for joining us, and watch out for the email that'll come soon that has the resources, your certificate of attendance that you can keep on file. And we'll also identify, we have put together a Google Drive folder with additional resources. So with that, I will wait and see if any questions come up.
Yes, I also wanted to
How
say
do we get a certificate of attendance if we were just a phone participant?
Yeah, you'll get a certificate of attendance. You were here, you were listening, we'll absolutely. How
So
would
she
you?
was just on the phone. Is there another way for those that are on the phone to be able to document that they joined?
What is your name?
I'm Shirley Gates from Cafe. Oh,
Okay, Shirley from Cut Bank. And did you register for the training?
yes.
Okay, so we'll find your email on the registration.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then we forgot to mention that here is who is currently on review for the 2021 school year.
Oh yes, thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Jackie.